Peggy Huber, retired school teacher.
And what do you remember from this little bridge tragedy?
I was a first-year teacher at Henderson Elementary in Henderson, West Virginia, and the day the bridge fell, I came home over the bridge, and when I got to the house, my dad said that Bill Wellman had called and said his ring was ready. Would I want to go back over and pick his ring up before we picked my brother up from the airport? And since I had a new Camaro and I love to drive, that wasn't any problem. So I went back over to Bill Wellman's jewelry store and picked up the ring and got in the car and was in the parking lot. And it was Friday, and traffic was extremely heavy. They were Christmas shopping and people getting off work. And when I was sitting there to get out, the two truck drivers that went down on the bridge went by, and one of them had waved to me. And I thought, yeah, you can flirt, but you won't let me out in the traffic. So finally, I got a break, and I got behind a large dump truck. And I thought, I'll never get home now. But we turned to make a left to get on the bridge street, and he was so slow, he got caught by the stoplight. And when we stopped at the stoplight, I had reached down to turn the radio on a different channel, and when I did, I heard this awful loud noise, and when I looked up, the bridge just looked like a tinker toy falling into the water. So I passed the dump truck, and I went around him and went back to Bill's, and I said, the bridge is fallen, I need to call my dad. So I called Dad and told him the bridge fell, and he said, well, stay where you're at, we'll be over to get you. And at that time, my mom worked for Dr. J. Bradshaw, and Dad called him, and they drove up to the site. And on the way up, they thought probably a sidewalk or something like that had fallen, and they'd closed the bridge. And they got up there and saw what had happened. And Dad talked to some people in the sheriff's department and told him that he was going to climb the railroad trestle, and he had to get over to get his daughter. And they said they wouldn't give him permission, but they weren't going to stop him. So he climbed the trestle and crossed the river, and then came down to Wellman's to get me. And by that time, it was just mass confusion, and the telephones were out, and you couldn't call or anything. So we left then and went to Charleston Airport to pick up my brother in the service, and then we had to go back through Huntington with that bridge to get home. And after the bridge fell, I didn't want to see the newspapers or television or anything, which was probably a mistake then, because I didn't save anything. And after a while, Goodyear brought a train in, and they had it for their people on shift work, but everybody could ride the train. And it lasted maybe a week or a little bit longer, and then they brought ferries in from down south. And there were two ferries, and there was one landing in Gallipolis, and then at Canoga, and then two landings on either side of the Shadle Bridge. And if it was foggy, they wouldn't run, or if the wind was blowing too much, they wouldn't run. That's the first time I ever realized that the water could get that rough on the river. And if you couldn't ride the ferry, then you had to drive around through Middleport Pomeroy and cross that bridge and go to work or get to Point Pleasant. And the highway that is Route 160 and 35 now, the 4-lane, that was supposed to be where it met the bridge, and traffic would cross the old bridge and go over. And after the bridge fell, I heard that there were 3 different locations that they were going to put the bridge. And the location that they decided on took the school where I taught at. We were right in the loop as you come off the bridge. And the other thing that I remember about after the accident, all the safety on the bridges were a big concern. And if you were on a bridge like at Pomeroy or down in Huntington, you had to maintain a certain feet in front or in front of the car or whatever was in front of you. They didn't want the traffic lined up on the bridge and to be heavy again. And it just changed both of the communities, after that.
So you had to continue to go to work after the bridge fell?
Yes.
So you took the train?
Well, the train only lasted a few weeks. They brought it in right after the bridge fell, Goodyear did. And it would have been nice if they kept that, running, but it only lasted a few weeks. And after that, you either took the ferry or you had to drive around.
Where did the train stop, or where would you pick it up over here?
In Gallipolis, you were at 3rd Avenue, right at the end where Sycamore was. You got on the train there, and then it came over, and if I remember right, it was in back of the old Mexican restaurant. There was a stop there, and then people from Goodyear would be waiting to pick up people from Goodyear, and then I had some teachers' friends that would come over and wait for me to get off the train and then take me to school.
So was there days after you started using the ferry that you couldn't make it to work? Or would you just go to like Pomeroy and over?
Yeah, it was just like you had to take a chance. You got up there and you waited in line, and if everything was working all right, you waited in line, and the ferries, if I remember right, held about 6 cars. So that wasn't really a lot to take, back and forth. You really had a long wait. And then you could be waiting in line, and all of a sudden they would come and say, well, we're shutting down because of the fog, or the river is getting too rough. And then you would have to go around to Middleport, Pomeroy, and then go to Point Pleasant.
Did you know anybody that actually went down on the bridge?
I didn't know anybody personally. I knew one of the names on the bridge was a distant relation, but I didn't know anybody that went down on the bridge.
Or you might have a student with someone?
No, it was more like a friend in high school had a cousin. I believe his name was, last name was Cantrell, but I didn't, know anybody personally that went down on it.
How has this changed you over the years?
I hardly ever cross a bridge without thinking about it, and I know after it happened, we had to go down to Huntington. My mom and dad were getting a car, and you almost have a panic attack being stopped in the middle of the bridge. And like my husband was in the service, and we were up in New England, and one of the largest bridge up there, the Tappan Zee Bridge, that was really a struggle, to get over. And like I said, I didn't want to see TV or hear anything about it, and this was the first year I started collecting things for my scrapbook and things. And yet, when you think about it, it's just like it happened yesterday. You can see the dump truck stopping and the bridge falling, and it just brings it all back when you think about it.
How long was it from when the bridge fell till they got the new one constructed?
I'm really not for sure, because like in 1969 in March I got married, and my husband was in the service, and we left. So I missed a lot of the bridge construction. But when the bridge did fall, and I'm not for sure who the governor of the state of West Virginia was, made it a top priority. And like maybe regularly the bridge took 3 to 4 years to build. They worked, I don't know if it was around the clock or whatever, but it was in a shorter period of time that they made the bridge and finished the construction on it.
So you were 2 years crossing with the ferry and
Yes.
to go to work?
Yes.
So I guess you gotta get up a little earlier.
You did. You had to get up earlier, and you know, you met a lot of people in line that you worked with, and you know, you kind of made friends with. If it was warm weather, you got out and talked while you waited for the ferry to come. And after the bridge did fall, there were 2 older teachers that worked, I think it was Central School in West Virginia in Point Pleasant, and they wanted to know if they could ride, you know, back and forth, because we tried to carpool. So Mrs. White and Mrs. Elliott and myself, we carpooled. I drove and dropped them off at their school, because you tried to get as many people in the car as you could to, you know, to go back and forth.
Any other stories you'd like to add?
I can't think of anything else. I was really amazed after it happened to think about it, that my dad was on that bridge without he went across on the train bridge without a flashlight or knowing when any of the trains would come or anything. That amazed me that he did that.